Hey, long time no see, huh? A man called out from behind, and it turned out to be my ex-husband. I never wanted to meet him again, especially not here. I heard you're getting welfare. My ex-husband said with a smirk, his new wife mocking me by his side. I decided to share a certain truth with these two. Who do you think you're mistaking me for? My name is Maggie, a 35-year-old housewife. I've been married to Brian for 7 years. We met at work. After graduating from college, I landed a job as an office worker at a corporation, and Brian was a salesman there. We were in different departments, so we didn't interact much, but Brian would sometimes come to my department for work. We knew each other by face from occasional greetings. The moment we got closer was when I happened to go out drinking with a friend. Brian and some coworkers sat at the next table. "Oh, aren't you from the office?" He recognized me and struck up a conversation. I responded with a greeting, and we ended up joining tables and drinking together. That night, talking with him, we got along well. We exchanged phone numbers and started messaging regularly. Eventually, he started inviting me out for drinks and meals after work, and even for dates on weekends. I was impressed by his sincere approach and agreed to go out with him. He always tried to make our dates enjoyable, which made me trust him. After a while, he confessed his feelings, and we started dating. He always treated me well, making me happy. About a year and a half into our relationship, he proposed. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Maggie. Will you marry me?" "Yes, I look forward to it." Thus, we decided to get married. However, I had a secret about my family background. My family lived in the capital region, not D.C. I had moved to Boston for university. My father was actually a CEO and a landowner doing real estate investments, making us quite wealthy. Because of my father's status, many people approached me with business proposals, some even trying to use me to get closer to him. Despite our wealth, my father lived modestly, but people knew about his business, making it obvious we were affluent. At school, some people tried to befriend me, hoping for some benefit, motivated by greed, but I was not spoiled by my father. I was given a normal allowance, and that gave me a good sense of money. Despite this, people who knew about my wealthy background would approach me, hoping to benefit from it someday. Tired of such experiences, I decided to go to university in Boston. Living in Boston, I enjoyed friendships without mentioning my family background. Everyone treated me as a normal person, making it difficult to talk about my family. I decided not to tell Brian about it. I trusted him, especially since he proposed without knowing about my family. I didn't want to see his attitude change by revealing my family's wealth. I thought it would be okay to share it later in our marriage, believing that learning about the wealth later would still be a happy surprise. We visited each other's parents, who approved of our marriage. My in-laws liked me, and we prepared for the wedding without inviting many people from my hometown, keeping my family background a secret. After getting married, Brian wanted me to stay at home. But what if we have children? Won't we struggle financially? He reassured me that he would provide for us as the head of the family. I was touched by his words and felt secure becoming a housewife. I dedicated myself to supporting him through household chores, taking pride in my cooking and cleaning. Brian appreciated my efforts, saying it motivated him at work. He continued to treat me well, taking me to various places on weekends, creating many memories together. 3 years into our marriage, I became pregnant. We had wanted children early on, and the news brought us immense joy. Brian was thrilled about the pregnancy, promising to work harder. I believed we would remain a happy family no matter what, and I safely gave birth to a baby. A healthy baby girl was born. However, after the birth of our daughter, changes began to appear in our relationship. "Ugh, it smells." "Well, that can't be helped. It's because of our baby, and she needs to poop." "Change your diaper quickly. It's so smelly, it's making me sick." Saying that, my husband quickly left the scene. Whenever the baby cries at night, he gets in a bad mood and orders me to stop her from crying quickly. I don't think it's right for him to order me around just because I'm a stay-at-home mom. Moreover, he's always angry the morning after our child cries at night. "I need to recover my energy for work. Why should my sleep be disturbed? It's your fault for not disciplining the baby properly." "But It's normal for babies to cry at night. Don't just dismiss everything as unavoidable. I think you're being too easy on yourself. He blamed me for everything. I was upset about why I had to be blamed like this. After that, he started to increase his drinking and overtime. As a result, he came home later and later, and I spent anxious days on my own. Even if he was cool to me, having another adult around when raising a small child is appreciated, but it felt like he was avoiding parenting, coming home later and later. I raised our daughter alone, and thankfully, she became very attached to me. At 4 years old, she started learning various things in kindergarten and would happily tell me about her day. I looked forward to her stories every day, finding happiness in them. However, I was troubled by my relationship with my husband. He continued to come home late and hardly interacted with me or our daughter. Hearing from other moms about family trips or kindergarten visits made me envious, as my husband's behavior meant we were stuck at home or just the two of us going out. I felt sorry for our daughter, so I told my husband I wanted us to go out as a family and make memories like the other moms. But he said, I'm tired from work. Don't be selfish when you're being supported by me. So he did nothing, and an awkward atmosphere developed between us. Is this really okay? I wished to improve our relationship for our daughter's sake, to be good parents. But then my husband did something unforgivable. One night around midnight, he brought home a woman. I was still awake, shocked to see this young woman. Who might this be? This is my lover, Sarah. What? I was speechless. My husband brought home his mistress. What do you mean by this? What kind of nerve do you have bringing a mistress home? I've wanted to end things with you. I'm divorcing you so that I can remarry her. Don't joke about divorce all of a sudden. What about her daughter? You take care of her. I'm starting a new life with Sarah. How can you just show up like this and expect me to agree with your nonsense? I was incredibly disappointed with my husband, but I couldn't just let him do this to me. Reluctantly, I let my husband and his mistress into the living room to talk. Our daughter is sleeping, so please keep your voices down. If you have any consideration, you wouldn't want to expose a small child to how messy us adults are. I don't care either way, but I'll do as you say. Sarah, be quiet. Sure, I'll sip it. Sarah, the mistress, was wearing incredibly flashy clothes. First of all, where did you two meet? I met Sarah at the gentleman's club where she works. That gentleman's club? Sarah, how old are you? I'm 24. She's 11 years younger than you. Oh, that's all? I thought you were like 20 years older because you look so much older. Sarah laughed at me, mocking. I quickly realized she was a terrible person, too. I understand. We'll separate, but you'll have to pay compensation and child support. At that, my husband shrugged. Fine, I'll pay you. If I can get rid of an old hag like you and be with a cute girl instead, it's a great deal for me. Fine. Well, let's end this conversation here. Yeah, I'll prepare the divorce papers, so just sign them and get out. I doubt you'll find a job anyway, having been just a housewife all this time. Don't blame me if you end up homeless. Wow, what a miserable wife. I wouldn't want to end up like you. Laughing at me, my husband and his mistress left the house. After they left, I collapsed on the spot. Why did I have to be betrayed like this? I had worked hard on the household and parenting. I don't think I caused that much trouble for my husband. Yet he insulted me, cheated on me, and abandoned me. I never thought I would be humiliated this much. Filled with indescribable anger, I quickly packed our things and left with my daughter. I went back to my parents' house, where they were outraged after hearing my story. My father asked if he should teach my husband a lesson, but I decided against it. I didn't want anything to do with that man anymore. I divorced my husband through a lawyer and demanded compensation from him and his mistress. I also demanded child support. My husband readily paid the compensation and promised to pay child support in installments every month. He must have wanted to divorce me quickly and remarry his mistress. I regretted getting involved with such a low man. I resolved to take even better care of my daughter, having taken her father away from her. Later, I started working at my father's company. Since I was back in my hometown, I decided to learn the business and eventually take over as president. My father, who had wanted me to take over all along, was very pleased when I started working at his company. I worked hard while raising my daughter with my parents. My daughter grew up healthy and started elementary school. She seemed to have made many friends and was doing well in her studies. With her consistently good grades, my father said, "This child will be more successful than me or you, Maggie." To make up for the fun we missed out on, because of my husband, I took my daughter on various trips to LA, Florida, and even abroad. I wanted her to experience things she had missed out on. When my parents could come, the four of us went out and created many memories. When my daughter talked about our overseas trips at school, her classmates were amazed and envious. If I had continued living with my husband, I couldn't have given her these experiences. Continuing to work hard, I achieved great results. Though I hadn't intended to, somewhere deep down I wanted to prove my husband wrong. After working tirelessly, 4 years after joining my father's company, it was decided I would take over as president. My father had long wished to live abroad with my mother and wanted to hand over the presidency to go overseas. So we set up an overseas branch and my father became a director there. I worked hard as a CEO to increase the company's profits. With a female perspective, I could bring new ideas, changing the corporate image and succeeding in new ventures targeting female customers. The headquarters of the new businesses was in New York, and I traveled between my hometown and New York for work. Mostly I worked from my hometown, interacting remotely with the New York office's executives, and visited New York once or twice a month. I brought my daughter along and enjoyed sightseeing in New York after work. One day, while sightseeing in New York, my daughter needed to use the restroom, so I waited for her outside. Given it was a popular tourist spot, there was a long line for the restroom, so I had to wait a while. And during that time, someone called out to me. "Hey, long time no see." The man who spoke was my ex-husband. I never thought I'd meet the person I least wanted to see again here. "Brian." "What are you doing here?" "It's none of your business." Even though I responded coolly, my ex-husband looked at me curiously and continued talking with a laugh. "I heard you're on welfare." "What?" "Being here, are you living like a beggar, asking for money and food?" Laughing, my ex-husband continued. "That's so lame. Poor kid." His new wife mocked me as well. I was furious, but meeting them like this felt like some sort of fate. "I'm really glad I divorced you. A woman on welfare? No thanks." As my ex-husband and his mistress continued to insult me, I decided to tell them the truth. "Who do you think you're mistaking me for? I'm not on welfare. In fact, I probably earn much more than you." "What?" As I said this, my ex-husband's eyes widened, but he quickly returned to his annoying smirk. "Nah, you're just bluffing. There's no way you earn more than me." Laughing, my ex-husband was handed my business card by me. He and his mistress looked shocked as they read it. "What? You mean you work at this major company? And you're an executive director, as in the president?" "Hey, isn't this other company the one that's been selling that amazing high-end skincare product recently? I've been wanting to try their moisturizer." "How come you're the president of such an incredible company?" my ex-husband asked, excited. "Well, it was originally my father's company." "What? But your family seemed so ordinary." "Yes, we tried to keep our background as hidden as possible. Being known as wealthy can be troublesome. That's why I never told you while we were married. It made the divorce smoother, thankfully. Now, including the success for our new ventures, my assets have exceeded 10 million.
10 million?
My ex-husband and his mistress looked like they were about to faint.
Why did you tell me? If I had known, I wouldn't have gotten involved with her.
What do you mean by that?
Because you don't do any housework, and the amount you spend. Do you know how much you made me buy in branded goods just today?
And that's the only good thing about you. You should be grateful you have a young and beautiful wife like me. Suddenly, my ex-husband and his mistress started arguing. "You're drawing a lot of attention here, just so you know." After I said that, they left the scene after being flustered. Later, I received a message from my ex-husband. He said he had divorced his mistress and wanted to get back together. I was astounded at his selfishness and delusion, thinking such a thing was even possible. I ignored his message and reported his harassment to his workplace. His actions became a significant issue, considering I'm the president of a major company and he was demoted to a dead-end department with no prospects for any promotion. I felt deserved that he got a taste of his own medicine after all the freedom he had taken away from me. Meanwhile, I continue to work hard at managing the business, and my daughter is growing up healthily. I look forward to enjoying more happy days together and leading a fulfilling life with her. My name is Karen Sawyer. I've been dating my boyfriend, Henry, for 4 years, and we've been living together for 2 years with the intention of getting married. Henry has said that he wants to have a wedding ceremony when we have enough money, even though we're at the point where all that's left is to register our marriage. As for me, I think it's okay to have the wedding ceremony later, but I want to at least register our marriage. However, Henry insists on having the wedding ceremony before registering the marriage. Amidst this, I found out I was pregnant. I happily told Henry, but he didn't seem very pleased. Pregnant? Yeah, that's right. Henry, frowning at me, seemed to say, "Why would you get pregnant?" That's why. I think we should at least register our marriage. I timidly said that. Why? If we don't register before the baby is born, the child will be considered illegitimate. Even if we get married, the child will be listed as an adopted child in the family register. That would be so sad. I see. But still, I think it's important to do things in order, like having the wedding ceremony first. I couldn't say anything more to him, who said this seriously, but I desperately wanted to register our marriage before giving birth. I absolutely wanted to avoid our child being considered illegitimate. Thinking this, I repeatedly brought up the topic of registering our marriage to him, but the answer I got back was always the same. As I approached the due date, I stopped bringing up the topic of registration. My friends asked me, "Aren't you going to get married? Are you going to be a single mother?" My parents kept saying, "When are you going to get married?" But even if they say that, there's nothing I can do if he doesn't say yes. However, one day, he suddenly said, "Let's register our marriage after all." But you said the wedding comes first. I thought that, but if we marry after the baby is born, won't the child be considered an adopted child? It's weird to think of my own child as adopted. So, I thought it's better to at least register our marriage now, even if the wedding is later. I was happy he finally understood, but I was afraid his mind might change if we delayed any longer. Then, let's register our marriage today. Right now? Yes. There's a saying, strike while the iron is hot, right? Well, yeah, that's true. It's okay, now. What does he mean by now? Though his words puzzled me, afraid that asking might change his mind, I didn't inquire further and rushed to the city hall. Despite having submitted our marriage registration, we weren't called for a while. I wondered why it was taking so long when a woman from the city hall came over and took me aside, away from him. It's difficult to say this, but you're already married according to our register. Huh? What are you talking about? You're married, aren't you? No, but it shows you are in 2 years of marriage. I've never been married. Why would that be? That, I don't know. We only processed that needed to be. Who is the other party? A foreign national. Foreign national? I don't know such a person. Are you saying you have absolutely no knowledge of this? None at all. If that's the case, did you possibly lend your name to someone? Why would I do such a thing? to acquire American permanent residency, marrying an American and staying in America for 2 years. Brings the foreign national 10 years green card. There are cases where people do that to acquire nationality. That's absurd. I don't even know any foreigners. Then it might be best to consult the police. Then, what about our marriage? Under the current circumstances, we can't process your marriage registration. This is terrible. When can we get married? If your marital status is dissolved, which means divorce the foreign national man, you can register a marriage with him. How? We can't tell you anything here, so please ask the police, I'm afraid. I'm pregnant. It's his child. I understand that, but it's determined by civil law. This is absurd. Henry, noticing I hadn't returned and sensing a dispute even without hearing the conversation, came over. What's wrong? Did something happen? The city hall staff, upon seeing him, walked away as if they could no longer intervene. But what should I do? Should I tell him the truth? But now that he's finally ready to marry, wouldn't knowing the truth make him call off the marriage? What will happen to our child then? But beyond the fear, anger was rising. Why should I be afraid over something I hadn't done? Why is this happening to me? Hey, what happened? Overwhelmed by the sudden revelation, I blurted out, the police, and started running. Surprised, he chased after me, caught up, and demanded an explanation. What's going on? Hey, Karen. He grabbed me and shouted his questions. I thought, I can't. I have to tell him, or this will turn into a fight. I steeled myself and told him everything I had just learned. Name lending. His quiet murmur pierced my heart. I didn't do such a thing. I don't know any foreigners, and I wanted to marry you, Henry. There's no way I would do something like that. I know. It's okay. He tried to reassure me, saying it was okay, but his complexion turned pale. I thought he might be considering calling off our marriage. That's why we have to go to the police. We can't let this go. We need to get this sorted out. But for some reason, he was against the idea. There's no need to go to the police. Why? I'm being prevented from marrying you over something I didn't do. But, look, it's not really a problem, is it? Not a problem? How can you say that? Soon, this baby will be born. If that happens, even if we marry, this child will be considered an adoptee. How can you say there's no problem with that? Well, it can't be helped. These things happen. He forced a smile, trying to calm me down, but my anger didn't subside. What when this child grows up and sees their family register? They'll think they were adopted. No matter how much we explain, they won't understand. That's something we can't help. We'll deal with it when the time comes. That's just. Come on, let's not worry about it too much. Let's just give up on this, okay? How can you be so calm about this? It's strange. I'm not calm. But this is the situation we're in. Sometimes you have to accept things. Despite his words, upon closer inspection, he seemed not calm but rather anxious. It didn't seem to be about my supposed divorce history, but rather about the idea of going to the police. Why? Why can't we go to the police? Dealing with the police and all that, it's just a hassle, isn't it? What if something happens to the baby because of all this stress? We should focus on making sure the baby is born safely. I'm just worried about you. Really? Going to the police is just a consultation. I can't see how that would harm the baby. Even if we consult the police, it's not like we can get married right away, right? If consulting today meant we could marry today, then sure, it'd be worth it. But that's not going to happen, right? So, it's a waste of time. A waste. Yeah, it's just a waste of time. With that, he left to buy a drink, leaving me to ponder. As I watched him walk away, memories of our time together flooded back. Every time I brought up marriage, he found a reason to postpone it. He didn't seem happy when I told him I was pregnant. He looked at my growing belly as if it were a nuisance, sighing deeply and frequently checking the calendar. I couldn't understand why. Perhaps he didn't want to get married at all. I had thought this not just once or twice. And yet, today, he suddenly suggested we register our marriage. I thought, it's strange. He says we should register our marriage. Yet he remains so calm in the face of such a situation. He doesn't blame me or panic. Instead, he tries to stop me from going to the police. Why? After 4 years together, I find myself unable to understand him, and suspicions begin to surface. Here, I bought this for you. Coffee is bad for the baby, right? So, I got you juice instead. Drink this and calm down. Thank you. I accept the juice, looking up at his face, but the doubts remain. Hey. What? Was it you? Ed? What do you mean? Did you arrange for me to be married? Ed? No, why would I do something like that? He laughs, but his face seems strained. If I had done something like that, I wouldn't be talking about getting married, right? It's only been 2 years since that marriage was registered, hasn't it? I thought, 2 years. That's not something I said. I stared at him intently. What? Is there something on my face? I said we couldn't get married. But I never mentioned anything about the register being 2 years. Really? No, that's not right. You just said it a while ago. You're just too upset and forgot. Henry is clearly flustered. His nostrils flare, a sign that he's lying. Why would you do something like this? Because, feeling trapped by my piercing gaze, he seems to relent and finishes his coffee. Why? Why did you do this? He starts to justify himself as if resigning to the situation. It can't be helped. You kept talking about marriage. And from my side, I'm doing all I can, but we also need money. Especially if we want to have a wedding ceremony. We just needed the money. But I said it was okay, just to register our marriage. Why would you resort to a sham marriage for that? It's fine, isn't it? Thanks to that, we got some money. So that's why you were always looking at the calendar? Waiting for the 2 years to be up? Yeah, that's right. After 2 years, we'd get a divorce, and that would be the end of it. What do you mean, the end of it? In the end, we can't even get married. It's not like we can't get married. We just have to wait for a bit. After coming this far, it isn't a big deal. So, for that, our child has to be born out of wedlock? You don't think that's a big deal? I'm going to end up with a divorce record without even being married. This is ridiculous. Who are you planning to marry anyway? Hey, you're marrying me, right? Then what does it matter if you have a marriage or divorce record? I know all about it. If you were marrying someone else, yeah, having a divorce record might be a disadvantage. A divorce record isn't something to be taken lightly, is it? It's light. Who looks at a record unless they need to? Why are you making such a big deal out of this? You're overthinking things. I can't see it as simply as you do. You're so stubborn, really. Try to think more flexibly. There are still plenty of foreigners at my company, you know. Lending my name to just one person nets $5,000. Can you imagine how many tens of thousands of dollars we can make going forward? A mark on the family register is nothing in comparison. Why would you do something like this? I heard it from the foreigners at the company. Marry an American woman for 2 years, even a sham marriage, and you can get a long-term green card. But if you ask an organization to arrange it, it costs tens of thousands. They said they couldn't afford that. So, I asked how much they could pay, and they said $5,000 was the limit. So, I thought, why not? And you arranged for me to be married because of that? Yeah, it was a great idea, wasn't it? We got $5,000 out of it, even though I hadn't considered we couldn't remarry immediately after a divorce. So that's why you kept finding reasons to avoid registering our marriage. Exactly, that's right. And that's why you were always looking at the calendar. Yeah, man, I was so nervous. It was almost time for the divorce, and then you were about to give birth. Honestly, I didn't want the child to be considered adopted. It's my own flesh and blood, after all. So, I was hoping the 2 years would pass quickly. I was worried what would happen if the birth came early, but it all worked out in the end. Though I never expected this kind of accident. This is awful. To tarnish someone's marital record over something like this. Don't worry about it. They just took a little time and delayed the process. We can register our marriage soon. To think you'd treat someone's marriage and divorce so lightly. No one would believe this if I told them. No need to tell anyone, right? This is a crime. It's a fraud. If you don't say anything, no one will know. But that makes me a criminal too. Not if you don't talk about it. Plus, the foreigner involved will eventually get permanent residency if we keep quiet. I got some money, and very soon, we can get married. It's all good. If that's the case. Let's have a wedding ceremony. We can have the ceremony and then register our marriage. You have $5,000, right? Why are you silent? You have it right about that. It's gone. I suspected as much. Someone willing to engage in such deceitful acts wouldn't just be after wedding money. There had to be another motive. My trust in him crumbled, feeling like the man I knew was disappearing into a mist. Why is it gone? Well, I had some urgent expenses. I used it for that. What did you spend it on? I had some debts. It looked like things were going to get pretty bad if I didn't pay them off. What kind of debts? Various kinds, you know. And are all your debts paid off now? He didn't answer. So, you still have debts? Well, yeah, but there are lots of foreigners at my company, you know. There's always a way to make money. So you used my name. I guess I have no choice but to go to the police. Because it's a crime. Now that I know about it, reporting it to the police is my duty as a citizen. You've got to be kidding. I won't let you go to the police. Despite his protest, I started running towards the police station. Instead of trying to stop me by grabbing me, he pushed me from behind. Due to the push, I fell down the stairs, which caused my water to break. An ambulance was called, and amidst the pain and anxiety, I was desperate to protect my baby. I was taken to the hospital, where my child was safely born, but he never came to visit me. I could not forgive him for trying to kill our child. Henry had no regard for human life, not even the life of his own child. I couldn't believe I had fallen for such a person, and I couldn't help but despise myself for it. After being discharged from the hospital, I went straight to my parents' house to discuss the matter with my mother. I can't believe he was such a person. Upon hearing my story, my mother was shocked and shed tears at my suffering. So, what will you do now? I was made to participate in a sham marriage, and he almost killed our child. I have no intention of forgiving him. I see. So, you've settled your feelings towards him then? Yes, I'm glad I found out what kind of man he was before we registered our marriage. Mom, what he did is punishable by law, right? Yes. She started searching on her smartphone. It seems like it falls under the crime of creating a false official document. The penalty is imprisonment for up to 5 years or a fine of up to $5,000. Imprisonment for up to 5 years? Yes, it seems you can just pay a fine and that's it. It feels too lenient, doesn't it? To tarnish someone's family register and get away with such a light punishment is unforgivable. I'll definitely get my revenge. Determined to make him pay for ruining my life and almost involving our child. I vowed to bring him down to hell. A few days later, after leaving my child with my mother, I headed to Henry's parents' house. It's been a while. Oh, welcome. Where's the baby? I have something important to discuss today, so I left the baby at home. Oh, is that so? She seemed a bit disappointed, but that was the least of my concerns. Henry isn't with you, is he? No. Because I came here about Henry. Seeing my serious demeanor, Henry's parents looked at each other and then sat upright to listen to what I had to say. I have some shocking news. Recently, I went to submit our marriage registration. Oh. So you finally officially got married. That was the plan. However, it turned out that I was married. Eh? Of course, I've never been married or divorced. When I asked who the other party was, they said it was a foreign national. What? And Henry? This is the shocking part. I thought it might be a fraud. So I suggested going to the police, but Henry said not to. When I pressed him for an explanation, it turned out he had arranged for me to be married without my knowledge. That's ridiculous. Permanent residency can be acquired by marrying an American woman and staying married for 2 years. Henry knew this and arranged for me to marry someone, planning to file for divorce after 2 years. Did Henry really do this? Yes, I confirmed it. That's why I tried to go to the police, but I was pushed down the stairs, my water broke, and I was hospitalized. My child was born safely, but what he did is unforgivable. What a terrible thing to do. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Yes. But I can't forgive him. Of course. He tried to kill your child by arranging a sham marriage. That's unforgivable. Indeed. What was he thinking doing such a thing? He said he had debts. And there are still debts remaining. Do you know what the debts were for? No, he didn't disclose that. That's why Henry isn't with you today. Rather than that, I haven't seen him since he pushed me down the stairs. He didn't visit me in the hospital or see the child. I see. That's terrible. I understand you can't forgive him, but is there something you want from us? More than a request, I wanted you to know everything. I can't forgive him, so I will divorce him. I don't know what trouble might come to you in the future. That's why I thought you should know. Right. If we didn't know, who knows what else he might do. And we can't just let this go. What do you mean? If we sided with him after all this, it would be a disservice to Karen. I think it's only natural for you to want a divorce. As parents, all we can do is turn our backs on him. If he comes to us for help, I don't plan on forgiving him. Is that okay? Thank you. I couldn't ask for more, so I'll accept your decision as your will. And since he tried to kill our child, I'll make sure he faces justice. Even if it means you'll resent me, it can't be helped. What do you mean by that? I'm going to the police to tell them everything. That's unavoidable. Making him atone for his sins is for the best. Yes. Henry's mother looked very distressed. It's understandable, considering her child might be arrested. But I almost lost my child. Even though I understand her feelings, it doesn't change what I have to do. Can you contact Henry? Yes, I think so, but why? Call him here. Why? Even if we're going to hand him over to the police. It's better if he turns himself in. Plus, he owes Karen an apology. Okay, I understand. Without telling her son that I was there or about the sham marriage. She simply said she wanted to see him and called him over. Contrary to expectations, Henry came, thinking he could enjoy a homemade meal. However, he found me there instead. Why is Karen here? Henry, do you realize what you've done? What do you mean? You pushed Karen when she was at full term. Ah, that. Karen just missed her step. Karen, why are you twisting the story? It's unthinkable for a pregnant woman at full term to just miss her step. She would be walking with the utmost care. But Karen is always so careless. It happens. What about the sham marriage? Eh? And how do you plan to excuse that? So, you've been talking to Dad, huh? You told him. It's true then? Well, if you know, there's no point in hiding it, right? It's not a big deal anyway. Not a big deal? Yeah, because it's true. There are foreigners who want American nationality, so I just helped them out. That's all it is. If you think about it, it's like helping people. How could you do such a thing? Karen didn't know about it, did she? That wouldn't have been a problem if we had just not married until the foreign nationals things settled down. It's just that I didn't fully understand the law about remarriage. Karen was just too obsessed with registering the marriage. Of course she was obsessed with it. She was about to have a child. If she hadn't rushed, we could have married normally very soon. But because of that, Karen's marital record is now tainted. Don't you feel bad? No, I don't. It's not like I said I wouldn't marry her. If she marries me, there's no problem, right? The problem is her saying she'll go to the police. Karen has decided not to marry you. What? Really? Yes, I've lost all feelings for you. What about the child? Though, since we weren't married, I guess you can't demand alimony or child support from me. Right, I have nothing to demand from you. Then it's fine. I was thinking marrying you might not be the best idea anyway. What do you mean? If I married you, I couldn't make you marry off foreigners anymore. Missing out on such a good deal just because we have a child? I think it's better not to miss out on such opportunities. What kind of person are you? If we're not getting married, it works out. You need money to raise a child, right? Just marry another foreigner. After 2 years, you can divorce. It's not a big deal just because you're registered. Creating a false official document. What's that? Your crime. Why would I have a crime against me? Because it's a crime. Ha! That's only if you report it to the police. You don't want to be pushed down the stairs again, right? Or maybe this time, the child will get hurt. So, don't think about reporting to the police. Instead of doing that, why not lend me your name and make money together? I don't think so. You're so stubborn. Henry, what you did is a crime. Turn yourself in. Huh? Don't be ridiculous. Why should I turn myself in? I was helping people. How can that be considered helping? Besides, you pushed Karen down the stairs. That was because Karen. You just confessed, didn't you? Confessed? What are you talking about? You admitted to pushing her down. And now, threatening harm to the child? You're just piling on more crimes. That's just a slip of the tongue. I haven't done anything wrong. It's all for helping people. You. I've made up my mind. I won't report him to the police. Karen. As long as he thinks this way, reporting him would be futile. So, I won't report him to the police. Is that really okay? Yes, it's okay. I don't want to risk my child's life anymore. Please live peacefully. That's the Karen I know, always understanding. Then, I'll be leaving now. Yeah, bye. Now, I'll have to find another woman to lend her name. That way, I can make a fortune. Wasting 4 years on such a foolish man was a complete waste of time. But I had no intention of letting it end there. I went straight to a lawyer to seek advice and decided to sue Henry. Henry, I never said I would let you off the hook. I just said I wouldn't report you to the police. Enjoy your descent into hell. After suing him, the police took the matter seriously. The foreigner involved was deported. After paying $5,000 and then being deported, it must have been a tough break for him. Henry ended up receiving a prison sentence. Initially, he boasted that he would just pay a fine of $5,000, but his parents, disgusted by his actions, refused to pay the fine and didn't visit him. As a result, he spent 5 years in prison. Upon release, Henry faced the reality of being jobless. Disowned by his parents, Henry had no one to turn to, although he lightly thought he could just find another woman for a sham marriage. However, finding a woman willing to participate wasn't as easy as he thought, and he ended up facing a new punishment, loneliness. Without a place to live and with a criminal record, he couldn't find employment anywhere. His life became almost homeless-like, and at one point, he desperately came to me, asking me to lend my name again. When I heard his request, I was astonished he was still thinking along those lines. And of course, I refused. I told him to find legitimate work if he didn't want to end up back in prison. But whether he took it to heart or not, he left without even seeing his child. As for where he is now and what he's doing, not even a rumor has reached me. Meanwhile, I've returned to my parents' home, where we're raising my child together. Despite the difficult circumstances surrounding the birth, my child is growing up healthy and keeping me on my toes every day. Yet, I find this daily life incredibly fulfilling. My name is Wendy Collins. I've been married for a year when I got the call that my mother-in-law had an accident. She survived, but was left wheelchair-bound, and it was my kind father-in-law who supported her. I did visit the in-laws' house occasionally, but my father-in-law, worn out from work and caregiving, fell ill and passed away suddenly. Unable to leave my mother-in-law alone, I offered to move in with her. Hey, we can't just leave Mom alone at the house. Then what do you expect us to do? Why don't we live there with her? Stop joking. I absolutely refuse to live in that old, dark house. George liked new things and preferred living in an apartment. Thus, despite being the one who should care for his parents, he didn't want to return to his parental home after marrying. I considered inviting my mother-in-law to live with us in the apartment, but it seemed impossible due to the cramped space. Eventually, after much persuasion, we started living in his parents' house. No matter how hard it was for me or how exhausted I became, George kept making demands. You said you'd take care of my mom. You should do your job properly. So, when George came home from work and dinner wasn't ready, he would yell, "Why isn't there any food?" It's your job. Fine. I'll eat out. He would take money and go out to eat alone, despite it being clear that preparing meals on time was impossible due to caregiving. My husband was selfish. When he came back from eating out and found the room wasn't cleaned, he would get irritated and lash out again. What have you been doing? Don't use caregiving as an excuse for being lazy. It's normal to clean up before your husband comes home. What kind of housewife are you if you can't even do that? You're really useless. How could he say such things? But arguing back would lead to a fight, which my mother-in-law, resting in the next room, would overhear. I wanted to avoid making her sad. I had no choice but to try to keep George in a good mood by cleaning up as quickly as possible. He would also get mad if the futon wasn't laid out or if the beer wasn't chilled, sending me out to buy it even in the middle of the night. I hoped he would help at least on his days off, but he would say, "Why should I do such things?" and then go out. My mother-in-law would apologize to me, feeling sorry. "It's not your fault, Mom. Please, don't apologize." We had such conversations countless times, and my mother-in-law always felt indebted to me. Our married life was sad. Because something might happen to my mother-in-law at night, I slept in her room, which meant my husband and I had no intimate moments in our first year of marriage. Although we wanted children, I had no confidence in raising them with no one to help. Meanwhile, my husband started coming home later and later. Eventually, he didn't come home at all some days. I thought, is he cheating on me? But in the current situation, I had no time to blame him. It was better to focus on getting through each day than to worry about unnecessary things. Then, one day, my husband came back with a woman. He was 30, and she seemed to be in her mid-20s. I was shocked when he said he wanted a divorce. Divorce. With a mother-in-law who needed care, what was he planning to do by getting a divorce? I don't want to be tied down to this old-fashioned house. So, I'll give it to you. Saying that, he handed me the divorce papers. What about your mom? You can take care of her. You said you wanted to take care of the old lady, so we moved here. I was against it from the start. But she's your mom. Even if she is my mom, I hate old things. I'm giving it to you, so be grateful. I felt only sadness at my husband's words, treating his mother like an object. I'm going to start a new life with her. You do whatever you want. So, hurry up and sign. But I don't have an income. How am I supposed to live? That's your problem. It's your fault for not working. I can't work because I'm caregiving. My dad worked while caregiving. Despite that leading to his father's collapse, my husband thought of nothing. Okay. I signed the divorce papers. Good. Now we can get married any time. The woman looked happy, snuggling up to my husband. I felt a terrifying emptiness at the thought of him seriously abandoning his family, but I didn't want to cling to such a man. Take care of the old lady, will you? With that, my husband left the house. It felt as if a hole had opened up in my heart. What was the point of everything I had done until now? It wasn't the sadness of being left by my husband that overwhelmed me, but a sense of emptiness. Then, I heard the sound of a bell ringing from the back room. It was the bell I had placed by my mother-in-law's pillow, for her to ring if she needed anything. I gathered my spirits and, pausing to smile before entering, rushed to my mother-in-law's side. Wendy Collins kept telling herself that she couldn't show her mother-in-law a sad face. I thought, but how do I explain? Being abandoned by her own son must be too shocking. Mom, what's wrong? He left, didn't he? It seemed her mother-in-law understood what had happened. Feeling sorry, yet frustrated at being unable to do anything, Wendy approached the bed, wondering what to say. However, her mother-in-law said, "Maybe we should sell this house first," and laughed. Huh? She was so taken aback that she could hardly find the words to reply. "Don't be so surprised. I always thought he would leave this house eventually, and that you would stay. But it's hard to care for me in this house, isn't it? So, let's sell this house and move somewhere more comfortable. But, even though we have this land, I think it will fetch very little. It's an old house, after all." "I know. And if we sell the house, we'll have nowhere to live." "Don't worry. Leave it to me." Brightly saying so, her mother-in-law began making calls immediately, actually starting the process of selling. At the same time, she decided to move into a luxury senior apartment. "Don't you think it's a nice place? The rooms are spacious, and it's all barrier-free. Getting out was difficult with the steps at the entrance, but here, there are no steps at the entrance, so it's easier for you, right? Plus, there's an open-air bath. I can't use it, but you can enjoy it. And there's a theater room. A fancy cafe, too. I'm looking forward to having coffee together. Mom, this place. Look, the security is perfect. 2 women can live here worry-free. But it's incredibly expensive. How can we afford this?" "Don't worry. Why did you choose such an expensive place?" "It was way too expensive. There was no way we could afford it." Despite being reassured not to worry, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I wondered why my mother-in-law was insistent on such an expensive property. I was holding back until he was gone. If we moved here, he would be pleased and surely bring another woman. I wanted to make things easier for you, who are going through a lot with the caregiving. So, I looked around and found this place. Indeed, bathing her was hard labor. Taking her out was difficult because of the wheelchair. I knew I was young now, but I would age too. I had considered what to do when that time came. It would be nice if he helped. But he doesn't help at all. It was as if her mother-in-law read her mind. "So, I wanted to gift you something for all your hard work for me." Moved by my mother-in-law's kindness, my tears flowed. Despite the hardships, I was grateful for my mother-in-law's warmth. I regretted marrying such a man, but was thankful for meeting such a kind mother-in-law. With the move decided, our new life began, more comfortable than imagined. The lack of steps made caregiving easier for both. The beds moved automatically, allowing my mother-in-law to get up on her own. She could move around the apartment in her wheelchair freely. But purchasing such a luxurious apartment was beyond surprising. I wondered what my mother-in-law was thinking. When asked how this was possible, my mother-in-law smiled and answered, "Actually, my husband left us quite a fortune. With not much life left, why not spend it lavishly?" We laughed. Half a year later, enjoying cafes and theaters, George contacted me. "Hey, how's Mom?" "Who is this?" "It's me, your husband." "Ah, my ex-husband. We're living together, but what about it? What happened to the family home?" "The family home? Yeah, I went there recently, and the place is just an empty lot now." "Oh, we sold it." "You sold it? What the hell are you doing?" "Can't help it. Mom decided to sell it." "Mom sold it?" "Yes. Selling it means you've got nowhere to live." "Oh, you're worried even after abandoning your family?" "But don't worry, we're living just fine." "So, what did you do with the money from the sale?" At that moment, my mother-in-law took the phone from me. "Who may this be?" "Mom. Are you okay?" Oh, who might you be? Only my daughter-in-law, Wendy, is allowed to call me Mom. So, who are you? What are you talking about? It's me, your son George. My son, huh? My son abandoned his family for some woman and ran away. Are you that George? I'm sorry. Apologies now won't do us any good. Hey, Mom, you sold the house, right? What did you do with the money? Don't tell me Wendy is holding on to it. That's none of your business. Actually, I'm in a bit of a bind right now. I really need money. Oh, is that so? So, could you lend me some? Lend you? What did you do? I have debts. Debts, huh? You and that woman you ran off with should pay them back together. Well, the debt was something we decided on together. Deciding together to get into debt? Ridiculous. Wendy would never let something like that happen. I had no choice. I bought a car on installment because I didn't have the money. I thought I could manage as long as I paid a fixed amount each month. But life got tough. When we ran out of money for living expenses, I ended up borrowing more. It felt like it was okay to borrow as long as the payments were fixed. I kept buying things I wanted on installment, but then I realized no matter how much I paid, the debt only grew. When I called to ask why my debt wasn't decreasing, they told me the high interest rates meant that if I only paid $20,000 a month, the interest would accumulate, and the next month I'd owe the principal plus more interest, creating a snowball effect. What a snowball. You're foolish. I didn't expect things to get this bad. I tried to make a lump sum payment, but the interest just kept growing. It's really tough. Tough, you say? We're family, aren't we? Help me out. When it was tough for us, you did nothing. Instead, you left everything to your wife and cheated. Why should I help someone like that? I'm apologizing, aren't I? Just lend me the money you got from selling the house. No way, I've already used it for moving expenses. You're still living with Wendy, right? How are you managing? Wendy works, doesn't she? You must have some money. George was persistent, trying every trick in the book. But even though I work, it's only to take care of my mother-in-law, and I get paid as a housekeeper. Essentially, it's all expenses for my mother-in-law. That's ridiculous. How can you live like that? I don't need to tell you that. Come on, help me out somehow. I have no intention of helping you. After saying that, my mother-in-law hung up the phone. Damn, that old hag. After being rejected and hung up on, George was evidently furious. Hey, there must be money. If she can afford to have her ex-daughter-in-law work as a housekeeper, there's definitely money. There might be, but what can we do about it? Just take it. Go there and steal the passbook or something. Ah, right. That's a son's privilege. Deciding on their plan, the two somehow found out our address and showed up at our apartment complex. What? This luxury apartment? We're struggling, and they're living the high life? What a wicked woman. They tried to enter the apartment but couldn't because of the tight security. Residents have to unlock the doors from the inside. We can't get in like this. Seeing their faces on the monitor, my mother-in-law and I didn't answer the call or unlock the door. Realizing they couldn't easily get in, they tried everything to enter. But it was no use. Eventually, giving up, they called us from outside the building. Hey, where are you now? At home. Living in this luxury apartment while I'm suffering. Why do you get to live in such a nice place? It's none of your business where I live. You never helped with the caregiving, did whatever you wanted, found another woman, and left. And now you're complaining because you're suffering? That's rich. Shut up. Let us live there too. No way. Told by my mother-in-law never to meet them under any circumstances, I decided to stand my ground. I'm not the same person I used to be. That house must have been bought by Mom, right? So what if it was? Then I have a right to live there too. This house was bought by my mother-in-law for me. She wanted to reward me for not complaining and working hard despite the difficulties of caregiving. You did nothing, remember? You left because you said you hated the old house and, apparently, old people too. What a thing to say. Ah, I was just tired at that time. It couldn't be helped. Which mouth is saying that? Tired from what? You never did anything around the house. I don't find your joke funny at all. But I really was tired. Tired from messing around with other women, maybe? That's not what being tired means. After all, you weren't the only one who was tired. Sorry. I just hated that house. If I could live in a beautiful luxury apartment like this, I'd help out this time. That's just an intention, isn't it? I am her son, after all. But Mom said not to let you in, right? After being abandoned, now you want a family reunion? Do you really think, after being abandoned like that, she would still consider you her child? You're being too naive. Hey, don't get so worked up. You're just stressed because you're doing everything alone, right? Taking care of someone alone is really tough. If you let me and my wife help, it would surely be easier. I'm fine on my own, thanks. There's no way you can handle everything alone. I can, thanks to this apartment. What the hell? Why are you the only one getting the sweet deal? That's just wrong. That way of thinking is wrong to begin with. Hey, it wouldn't hurt to let us in just a little. Just letting us in is enough. Or are you planning to hoard all of Mom's money for yourself? I won't let you do that. Suddenly, George's wife joined the conversation. Realizing this was going nowhere good, I decided to contact the police. I thought it would cause less trouble. The police arrived promptly after a report from the luxury apartment and warned the two to leave. A few days later, George contacted me again. Hey, about Erin. Who's Erin? My wife. Oh, so that was her name. Yeah, she took all the furniture while I was at work and ran away. Oh, how ambitious. All that was left in the room was a divorce paper and a note saying she couldn't deal with a poor man. Wow, impressive. She chose a poor man herself. It's all because you're hoarding Mom's money. Back to that? I'm not hoarding anything. Mom does what she wants. I'm just a housekeeper. No, if you had let me in, this wouldn't have happened. You wanted to search the house and steal Mom's bank book, right? Do you think I don't know that? I don't trust you anymore, so no matter what you say, it's impossible. It's your fault for calling the police. You were making a scene outside. It was unavoidable. You don't even reflect on your actions. Now, I'm all alone. And how is that my problem? Can't we start over? Huh? You just got divorced, right? Yeah, but men can remarry immediately after divorce, unlike women who have to wait 6 months. So, if I submit this divorce paper, I can remarry you right away. You're happy, right? Happy about what? Why would I want to remarry someone who just got divorced? If we remarry, I'm sure Mom will pay off my debts. Then, my debts would be easily cleared. Isn't that a great idea? Great. Why should we pay off the debt you made with that woman? How much more do you plan to make Mom suffer? No, I didn't mean to. Your idea leaves no room for any other interpretation. You just see things differently. I'm just thinking about making everyone happy. After all, I am her real son. Mom said blood relations aren't worth anything. What nonsense! Blood relations are the most important. If blood relations are so important, why did you abandon Mom so easily back then? Impossible. That's because. That's why your wife left you, right? No, that's not it. She said if things continued this way, we'd end up in trouble with the police or chased by debt collectors. So she left. So, she dumped you and left everything to you. Perfect. I never thought she'd divorce me and leave me with everything. Well, she was your wife, so it makes sense. A well-matched couple. Trying to be happy by herself. What a terrible woman. That's a boomerang. You were just like that. Too selfish, don't you think? I thought so. Selfish, self-centered, hopeless. That's why I hoped you'd go to hell. Yeah, I think so too. A woman like that should go to hell. We really get each other. We should remarry. Carefree or utterly selfish, that seems to be my ex-husband George's way. After being dumped by his wife, he's been scheming to remarry me to get his hands on my mother-in-law's money. You know, I have no intention of remarrying you. Why not? We were so in love when we were younger. I think that was a misunderstanding. So, you can forget about it. What a heartless woman. I was married to a heartless man, so I learned a thing or two. Come on, don't say that. Help me out, please. Sorry, but I'm off to the theater room to watch a movie with Mom. What? There's such a thing too? Yes, besides the theater room, there's also an open-air bath and a cafe. Luxury apartments are amazing, you know. So, I'm hanging up now. Let me in too. Please, I hate living in a cramped rental apartment. I want to live in a luxury apartment too. Talk to Mom for me, please. Okay, I'm going to block you now. Hey, Wendy. Damn. Wendy. You damn old hag. George was cursing until the very end, envious of the luxuries of the high-end apartment as the call ended. And I thought, serves you right. In the end, after being blocked by me, George tried contacting his mother. But she also lambasted him and blocked him. Despite being rejected by both his ex-wife and mother, George was desperate for salvation and tried to get into the apartment again. This time, he came prepared, disguising himself as a delivery man or a florist. Such admirable effort, if only he had shown it during our marriage, but it was too late. No matter the disguise, he was recognized and couldn't enter the apartment. Eventually, he started yelling and screaming in front of the monitor, prompting the building manager to deem it a disturbance and call the police. Thanks to that, George was taken away by the police to cool his head in a cell. With no one to pick him up, George named me, but being divorced and now a stranger, I refused. His mother's name came up, but she firmly declined due to her wheelchair and old age. Finally, after contacting several people, his boss came to pick him up, only to fire him for causing trouble. Burdened with debt and now unemployed, George tried to make ends meet with part-time jobs, but ended up in prison for attempting to steal money from a store register. As for me, I continue to live happily in the luxury apartment with my mother-in-law. Lately, I've become good friends with other seniors living in the same building, enjoying every day. I'm very happy now. My name is Jennifer. I've been married to my husband for 8 years. My husband is a kind man who always cherishes me. He loves my cooking and enjoys whatever I make, saying it's delicious. Really, Jennifer, all the dishes you make are so delicious. It feels almost wasteful, but I'm the only one enjoying them. Encouraged by my husband, I decided to open a diner. Customers who came to eat became regulars, and we got high ratings on review sites. Now, there is a line of people waiting outside of the diner during lunchtime. It's so busy every day that I couldn't manage without the help of part-time workers. So many customers came in today as well. It's all thanks to you for encouraging me. Thank you. Thanking my husband had become a daily routine. But then, one day, I got a call from a university student claiming to be my husband's mistress. Your husband got me pregnant. What? Your husband got me pregnant. When? When isn't the issue here. I'm going to give birth soon. Soon. That means it must have happened within the last 10 months. Could there be some mistake? Are you trying to dodge responsibility? Because of this, I had to drop out of university. That's because you didn't use contraception, right? I don't think it has anything to do with me. How can you say it's not your concern? It was your husband who did this. Then, why don't you speak directly to my husband? It's troublesome for me to deal with this. A wife should take responsibility for what her husband does. Is that so? Why are you laughing? Because my husband would never do such a thing. It must be a mistake. You think your husband would never do such a thing? That he's not that kind of person? But the fact is, I am pregnant. What are you going to do about it? What can I do about it? Give me $30,000. What? Why 3 million? For compensation. I had to quit university, so pay me $30,000. This is troubling. Are you really sure it's my husband? Yes. It's your husband. That's impossible. It is possible, that's why I'm calling you. It just doesn't seem possible. My husband, who is a very sincere person, and I first met at a favorite cafe. At first, we didn't even talk, but as we kept visiting, we started greeting each other and eventually had tea together. It took over a year just for that small progress. We enjoyed our tea time together, and it seemed like nothing more could happen between us. But unable to resist the attraction, I was the one who confessed. I like you. What if he dislikes me for this? What if he says he likes someone else? By revealing my feelings, I might lose the time we have now. These thoughts were swirling in my mind. Yet, I wanted to express my feelings. With sweaty palms and a desperate effort, the only words I managed to say were just that. However, when I confessed, it turned out that my husband felt the same way. I'm sorry. This must be bothersome, isn't it? But, because I like you. I just had to express my feelings. I remember feeling like I was about to cry. My eyes grew hot, and I regretted saying anything. His silence seemed to last forever. I thought, it's over, I should leave, I'm sorry. I stood up to leave when he spoke. Wait. Please wait. I was so happy, I didn't know how to respond. I feel the same way. My husband said that with a red face. He said his mind went blank, not knowing how to respond. He's pure, straightforward, yet shy. He told me how he had been struggling every day, unable to express his feelings of love. When I heard this, I was so happy. Tears I had been holding back overflowed, and I cried in front of him. It took a long time before he asked me to marry him. Yet, I believed in him, waiting for him to propose. His proposal was simple and warm. Would you marry me? He said in a faint, uncertain voice. I nodded slightly in answer. Yes. Our wedding was small, but when our life together started, I couldn't believe how happy we were. However, I've been alone for the past 5 years. My husband has been transferred, and as I was working too, I couldn't follow him. I was left alone at home, and the anxiety was immeasurable. Even though I used to live alone, it felt like I had never had such an experience, and unknown fears tormented me. How could he possibly have a mistress? Especially a university student much younger than him. I thought, it's absolutely impossible. My husband would never do such a thing. It's not possible. No, on the contrary, if it were possible, it might even be better. Maybe it would be better to have a fight over this. So, pay the $30,000. When the child is born, it will cost money. Yes, it will cost money. But my husband would never have a mistress. Why can you say that? All men are the same. Don't think your husband is the only decent one. I don't think he's particularly noble. But he just couldn't do it. He couldn't do it? That's impossible. Your husband and I, we have that kind of relationship, you know. Still, I find it hard to believe. No matter how I think about it, I can't see you and my husband having such a relationship. Shut up. Whether you believe it or not, it's true. Pay the $30,000 quickly. I understand your point. Could you tell me your name first? Why do I need to tell you my name? If you're his mistress, I should be allowed to ask that much, right? Well, okay, I'm Daisy. So, Daisy, where did you meet my husband? It's sugar dating. Sugar dating? My husband couldn't possibly do such a thing. He's not the kind of person who could do that. Besides, while she was talking rapidly earlier, she hesitates when I ask questions. Could this be some kind of new scam? That suspicion arose in me. Yes. Surprised? We met through sugar dating, and we developed a love affair. We were attracted to each other and made a mistress agreement. We've been together for almost 2 years now. I see. Do you have any proof that your partner is my husband? Proof? Well, he gave me his address. That's strange. Normally, he wouldn't give out his address. He gave it to me. How about a phone number? Do you know my husband's cell phone number? If you're in a mistress relationship, you should know, right? Huh? I don't know his phone number. We have messenger accounts. We don't need that. Is that so? My husband hardly ever used messengers with me. He always said that phone calls were better because you can understand the other person's emotions through their tone and pauses, which you can't get from just text on messengers. What you're saying doesn't make much sense. Think what you want, that's up to you. The fact is the child in my belly. I can't believe that's a fact, that's why I'm asking. Enough already. I know your diner is thriving. You can easily pay $30,000, can't you? That's not the case. No matter how busy my small diner gets, the profits are slim. Yet, the woman on the phone is demanding payment. Thinking it would disrupt the business to continue this call, I said, "All right, I understand. I'm in the middle of business now, so let's meet and talk in detail later." Okay. You'll understand once you see my belly. I thought, my husband passed away 5 years ago? And she still says I'll understand, huh? After hanging up, I smiled at the part-time workers and reassured them that everything was okay. A few days later, on the diner's day off, I invited Jennifer. Hearing about this, the part-time workers, considering it a major issue for the store, came to the diner even on their day off. Truth be told, I felt somewhat relieved to have such strong allies by my side. Jennifer arrived, cradling her large belly, and sat down on a chair inside the diner. "Thank you for coming today." I gave her a smile, but it was merely a business smile. Internally, I was determined to expose this woman's true identity. She indeed looked young, and I could believe she was a university student. But her skilled makeup and neatly painted nails, and the jewelry hanging around her neck, seemed quite expensive. "Could you please tell me the details again?" The part-time workers sat a little distance away from our table, quietly watching us. "Who are those people?" "They came because they're worried about me." "What, a bunch of onlookers? That's pretty low." "They are my precious partners." "Don't use such language." Humph, you need such a cheer squad to face your husband's mistress? How introverted are you? It's not like that. Anyway, can you tell me once more how you met him? How did you connect despite such an age difference? I already told you, it's sugar dating. You said you've been together for 2 years, right? Yes, that's right. Then, can you show me proof that the child in your belly is my husband's? I'm telling you, isn't that enough? That's not enough as proof, is it? For example, if you had photos taken together, then it might be believable. There's no such thing. He said he didn't want to take photos. That's strange. My husband loved photos. He would always take pictures wherever we went. I have many photos taken with him, so it's unimaginable that he wouldn't take photos with someone he liked. I don't know about that. He just didn't want to take them, that's all. If there are no photos, then there's no proof. Photos aren't everything. Well, how about the documentation of pregnancy? If you're really pregnant, you should have one, right? Are you doubting me? Even with my belly this big? Yes, I don't want to doubt like this, but I can't be sure if your belly really means you're pregnant. I didn't bring those documentation. If that's the case, then it's questionable whether you're really pregnant, and there's no proof it's my husband's child. I can't believe you're his mistress either. It's like grasping at clouds, isn't it? Why is it turning out like this? I'm telling you it's the truth. Jennifer becomes furious, shouting angrily. The part-time workers are saying, "That's impossible. Jennifer's husband has a mistress? No way." Daisy, feeling overwhelmed by the numbers, continues to shout and vent her anger. Then, would you mind looking at this? Saying so, I took out my husband's smartphone. This is my husband's smartphone? Why are you looking at your husband's phone? Isn't that an invasion of privacy? Maybe. But looking at this will clear everything up. You say you met my husband through sugar dating, but you're a hostess at a cabaret club, aren't you? How do you know that? This Messenger's account is yours, right? You can't tell from Messengers. But this wallpaper, it's your face, right? You're beautifully made up, totally the look of a cabaret girl. That was a photo from a university party. Oh, I see. It's the same makeup you have on now. I can't believe an amateur could do such beautiful makeup. It's really pretty. Is that so? Daisy smiled, seemingly pleased. Any woman would be happy to be called beautiful. A natural reaction, I suppose. And you know, I read all the conversations in here. My husband only went to the cabaret club where you work once. You served him there. After that, you kept messaging him on Messengers, inviting him to the club. But he never responded to those invitations. He didn't want to exchange messages on Messengers because his wife would find out. That's why I wrote it like a typical hostess and customer. I'm his mistress, so I'd be considerate of that. Is that so? From what I see here, you seem pretty desperate. Trying hard to catch my husband's attention. But he wasn't interested, was he? So why would you become his mistress? That's what I'm telling you. I was being considerate, making sure his wife wouldn't find out. I wonder if a university student could be that considerate. I am that considerate. So, a person as considerate as you, why would you suddenly come forward with this story now? Because I got pregnant. You've been a mistress for 2 years. But this exchange is from over 5 years ago. How many years of a gap was there? No, different. We've been together for longer. It's just that we've been in a deeper relationship for 2 years. You should plan your lies more carefully, they're falling apart. By the way, this is an exchange with my husband's boss. My husband was known as a devoted husband at his company. Even for work-related gatherings, he didn't like going to cabaret clubs. He reluctantly went just once. That was the one time I mentioned earlier. After that, he was invited by colleagues but never went again. And his boss was saying, "You really are a devoted husband." So what? My husband didn't frequent places with women and never tried to contact women other than me. So the idea of him doing sugar dating is impossible. But it happened, so there's nothing I can do. Maybe he was tired of you? Here, it shows you persistently inviting him, and he rejects all of them. He's consulting his boss about this. Would someone who consults his boss about such things not notice you at all? You're just a hostess at a cabaret club, not his mistress. Maybe it was just a hostess and customer relationship? This is so annoying. Whether we met through sugar dating or at a cabaret club, it's the same. Right, the meeting isn't the issue. What puzzles me is how you knew our address and why you don't know the phone number. I was curious about that, but it's clear from this messenger's conversation. When my husband went to the cabaret club with his boss, he talked about me all the time. He said I run a diner that's doing well, even inviting them to come eat. But that wasn't just to you, it was to everyone there. You remembered the diner and decided to call, didn't you? Lies. How can you make up such a story? It's all speculation, isn't it? Still not admitting it. Maybe if you meet my husband, it will become clear. There's no need for that. Why not? If you meet my husband, everything will become clear, won't it? He wouldn't like it. If he saw me here, he'd ask why I came. If it turns into a scene, he'd be so pitiful. That's why I'm against it. Are you okay with putting him in a difficult position? If you really loved him, you couldn't do that. If that's really the case, I would feel sorry. But if he's cheating, it's necessary to make things clear. If it's really infidelity, I'm against it. But this is the only way, isn't it? There's no need for that. Why not? It would be better for you to clear things up, wouldn't it? Instead of that, pay me the $30,000 quickly. You keep talking about evidence, but more important than any evidence is taking responsibility for this child. I think it's fair to ask for $30,000 and then I'd leave him. Daisy's panic was evident, and then one of the part-timers, Miss Peter, interjected. Something seems fishy. Why are you so hurried? And if you really loved him and wanted to have his child, you wouldn't think about taking money to leave him, right? Shut up. People think differently. Keep out of it. Are you really a university student? That seems suspicious too. Sure, there are university students who work as hostesses, but something about you seems off. What? I am a university student. I am really 21 years old. You are so rude. I'll sue you for defamation. Feel free to sue. But you might be the one who ends up being sued. Why? For fraud and defamation, maybe. What's this? The online reviews said the staff and manager were so nice, but that's totally a lie. You're so rude. Well, today isn't a business day. If you want the experience as per the reviews, why don't you visit as a customer on a business day? Then you'll see it's as the reviews say. But I think it's too late for that. Everyone here is so rude. No wonder your husband cheated. Well, I wonder about that. I don't believe for a second that my husband cheated. You have his mistress right in front of you, and you still trust your husband? Are you stupid? No matter how much you shout, without evidence, what can I do? I can provide evidence, but you haven't shown a single piece to prove you're his mistress. How can I believe anything you say? Jennifer bit her lip in frustration, glaring at me, still unyielding in her attempt to get the $30,000. Even with all the evidence presented, she neither admits her foolishness nor apologizes. It seems I have no choice but to launch my final attack. I decided to drop the last bombshell. I guess I have no choice but to let you meet my husband. I didn't want to do this. I was thinking of letting it go if you admitted and apologized. But if you refuse to acknowledge it, I have no choice. What do you mean? Once I do this, you won't be able to make excuses anymore. Are you prepared for that? So, what are you going to do? Miss Peter, could you please bring it here? Sure. Miss Peter then went to the back and returned with a memorial tablet and a photo, placing them on the table. I looked straight at Jennifer. Huh? What are you doing with a memorial tablet? That's creepy. Don't you understand? This person is your supposed lover, right? What is this? This memorial tablet and this photo belong to the same person. And what does that have to do with your husband? Can't you see? This is my husband. Huh? My husband passed away 5 years ago. He was supposed to transfer for work, but I was working and couldn't go with him. Tired from his job, he met with an accident on his way home. Life is so fleeting, isn't it? Huh? Hey, if you're really carrying the child of Jennifer's husband, then you're saying your lover is a ghost. Maybe you should see a medium. You're carrying a ghost's child? That child might be cursed. The part-time workers are laughing, saying, "That's scary. I wish he could appear to me if such things were possible." But Daisy reacted differently. You're doing all this just to deny it? You're trying to convince me with some blurry photo and a memorial tablet of someone I don't know? It's unbelievable. Even with all the evidence presented, she still insists it's my husband's child. It's amazing. You don't even recognize the face of the person you claim to love. Do kids these days not remember their partner's face? Of course not. How can I tell anything from this blurry photo? You're just scared to bring your husband out because if he chose me over you, you'd hate it, right? But I already said I'd leave him if you pay me $30,000, so that should be enough. Enough already. Unable to hold back any longer, Miss Peter shouted. Do you have any idea what Jennifer has been through these past 5 years? Losing her husband and enduring all that pain, and you come here trying to deceive and lie like this. There's a limit to lying. What lies? You're the one trying to deceive with this act. Deceiving? You're the fraudster here. I'm not committing fraud. You shouldn't say such things just because he's deceased. Defaming the dead can still lead to legal action. And will also sue you for fraud. Why are you saying that? There's no way you can defame someone who's dead. But you can. Oh, Miss Peter here is a local lawyer. A local lawyer? She handles small, local cases. She's the lawyer our diner has been using. Why is a lawyer even here? That's so unfair. Just as Daisy stood up, a cushion she had been using to fake her pregnancy fell off, rolling onto the floor. Everyone was stunned. I suspected the pregnancy might be a lie, but I was shocked to see it proven by a fallen cushion. Just as I thought. The pregnancy was a lie. No, it's not like that. To tell such a terrible lie about carrying my husband's child. While I was fuming at Daisy, Miss Peter took her bag and started checking inside it. This girl is 24, not 21. Such a big lie. So, the part about being a university student is also a lie? There are 24-year-olds in university. And there are university students who work at cabaret clubs too. You said that earlier. If you keep insisting, show us your student ID. You probably don't even have one. Why are you doing this? Lying about someone else's husband. What a foolish thing to do. As I shouted, Daisy started crying, claiming it was all true. But Miss Peter was not fooled by such tears. Crying like that is something you do to men, she said, laughing. Why did you do this? Using a deceased person for such a scheme is just despicable. It's not a lie. She continued wiping her tears with a handkerchief, but it didn't seem genuine. If you don't stop, I'll inform your parents and the police. You know what will happen if your parents find out, right? No, Miss Peter. I can't forgive her. She tried to tarnish my husband's reputation, no matter the reason. We're going to the police. No, please. I just wanted money. I wasn't really his mistress or pregnant. I just needed money. I had no choice. That's no excuse for what you did. I had mounting debts. I thought if I pretended to be pregnant, I could definitely get the money. Since he wouldn't be coming to the cabaret anyway, there would be no contact with him. I figured he wouldn't know if I deceived him. What kind of person are you? What were these debts for? Well, I wanted designer items. For such things? Yes, but when you work in a cabaret club, everyone has branded items. I didn't have any clients, and I'm already 24. The other girls my age made fun of me. So, I thought if I wore branded items, I might be seen differently. It was just a little pretense. You tarnished my husband's honor just for that? Even after 5 years of his passing, you defame him now. But it's not right after his death, so it's better, right? Think of it that way. What are you saying? No, this is unacceptable. We're taking you to the police. And we'll inform your parents too, so be prepared. Please stop, stop. No matter how much she pleaded, my decision didn't change. Eventually, Daisy was charged with defamation and fraud and received a prison sentence. As a result, she was fired from the cabaret club. Her parents, who visited her in prison, were furious and made her cry after learning about her behavior and employment at the cabaret club, which they had been unaware of. They were shocked by their daughter's actions and lifestyle. When asked by her parents why she needed the money, Daisy couldn't admit it was for designer items and lied about wanting to study abroad, trying to deceive them further. However, I informed her parents of the entire truth. This led to even more anger from her parents, who stopped visiting her in prison until her release. Years later, after being released from prison, Daisy considered returning to the neon-lit world of nightclubs. But as she exited the prison gates, her parents were waiting for her. Excited about returning to normal life and expecting to be treated to a nice meal, Daisy soon realized her parents weren't so lenient. Deeply regretting their parenting, they decided to take her to live with her strict grandmother in the mountains. The grandmother's place, without electricity and entertainment, was a tougher environment than prison for the extravagant Daisy. Seeing Daisy's dejected state, her grandmother vowed to straighten her out, chasing her around with a stick in hand. As for me, the diner continued to thrive, and I felt grateful, believing my husband was watching over us. The part-time staff and I keep serving delicious meals every day.